So this is my Cobra Adder. Currently got the 7-shot magazine on it and the V2 upgrade, which is the upgraded cocking mechanism, cocking lever. After the success of the groupings with the Jag 1, getting some pretty good groupings at 40 yards, I thought I'd try today to use the Adder with the 130 limbset, and I've also brought the 180 limbset using the standard red dot sight that comes with the crossbow. It's a bit windy today, so not 100% sure how this will go, but I'm going to try it out. This is the first 3 shots at 30 yards with the 130-pound limbset. What I should mention is that we are outside and it is quite windy today. I'm not sure if I felt a gust of wind when I fired that bolt or whether it's down to me, but that's our grouping. Perhaps 6 inches, size of a hand. These are much smaller bolts than what the Jag 1 takes though, and they only have 2 vanes rather than 3. So what we have now is the target set out at 40 yards. I've just zeroed it in on a previous 3 shots with the 130-pound limbset. Okay, so I can see 2 of the bolts. Oh, okay, so there's the 3rd underneath. So the grouping has got bigger, obviously at 40 yards. 1 underneath, 1 in the middle. I'd say we're still looking at roughly 6 inches, but definitely more spread out than it was at 30 yards. It's worth mentioning on those last 3 shots, the magazine lid was popping open a little bit. That's actually because I dropped the magazine and damaged it slightly. It still works, but I've cracked it a little bit, so that's completely on me. Should look after my stuff better. I'm going to take another 3 shots at 40 yards, sorry, with the 130 limbset. I'd say that's a slightly better grouping than before. Perhaps very similar in spread, but just slightly higher, slightly closer to the center. What I've done now is I've brought the target back to 30 yards and I put the 180 pound limbset on, so I expect the groupings to be tighter, and it is now more comparable to the Jag 1, which is 175 pound draw weight. Okay, so here's the grouping, and you can just see here the bolt that just flew over the top. Now I think I did bring the sight back down a half turn, but I think realistically I need to bring it down another quarter turn just to get a more accurate grouping. Shows how powerful this is. This is 9mm ply, and it's busted right out the back. I brought the sight down slightly. I'm going to take another 3 shots, and yes, it is a bit annoying that the magazine tray pops open every time you shoot. I've found that the bow, with the 180 pound limb, I bought a different optic, and the power of the bow was turning the optic off, so I feel like 180 pounds is unnecessarily powerful for this bow, but we'll see how this goes, this grouping. So that's the final grouping at 30 yards. I have brought it in a touch. As you can see, I think the previous grouping was about with my thumb. So I mean, that's quite good, I'd say, at 30 yards, 180 pound limb. Target's now at 40 yards with the 180 pound limb set. So here's where we're at. Quite an interesting phenomenon there. Not too sure why that's all twisted up like that, probably from where it pulled that. Actually, yeah. Oh god, look at that. So that was there. So again, about 6 inches. I would expect it to be slightly tighter. I'm going to take another 3 shots. I've brought the sight down a touch. I'm going to take another 3 shots. So again, this is 40 yards, 180 pound limb set. So I think, again, we've got a very similar sort of grouping. I don't think I'm going to get it tighter than that. 40 yards, 7.5 inch bolt. I don't think with this wind you're going to get it any tighter. Just before the sun finally makes its way around here and blinds me, I thought I would showcase more of what I think this crossbow is designed for, which is rapid fire. So I've changed the limbset back to 130, as 180 is just totally unnecessary at 20 yards, which is what I have the target set out at. I'm going to fire 7 shots, hopefully all on target, and we'll see how long that takes. Now, there is absolutely no arguing. I don't know how long that took, but that's standing at 20 yards with, admittedly, the sun in the optic, so it was making it slightly harder to see. But that's 7 shots, all within a sort of hand-sized grouping at 20 yards. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is a really tight grouping, I would say, compared to the others. That's at 20 yards, firing quickly in the wind. So I do think this crossbow is much better designed for this style of shooting rather than long range on a rest. So, second grouping, second round of rapid firing the 7 shots. Again, quite a consistent grouping, I'd say. Luckily I haven't stuck a bolt into the back of another bolt just yet, which has happened previously at short distance. So again, third round of shooting, half the bolts have actually just disappeared inside the centre of the target now. I'm just showing you this again so you just get an idea of what the consistency is like. That's 3 rounds of rapid fire, 7 shots. Haven't had any strays. So that's just sort of giving you an idea of what to expect at 20 yards. I thought this was a great place to round off the video. Just thought I'd get a little front profile of the crossbow. Having taken shots at 30 and 40 yards and at 20 yards, I think it's clear that this crossbow is designed for what it's good at, which is firing quickly, and that's relative to other crossbows at short distance. It's not the best. The groupings weren't bad at 30 and 40 yards, but they probably weren't good enough to say it's accurate at 30 or 40 yards, especially when you compare that to crossbows like the Jag 1, which I previously did a video on, which was getting a much tighter grouping at 40 yards. It is worth noting that the bolts are smaller on this crossbow. I think they're probably half the length as the bolts for Jag 1 takes, and that they only have 2 vanes, and it is windier today. But again, I still think regardless it wouldn't be the same.